Well, I haven't memorized this yet, so bear with me. I wrote this 2 days after my birthday, so I'm actually reading it. So, I'm at a midlife crisis. My life is not what it's supposed to be, but for some apparent reason, I feel during my crisis, Christ is not where he's supposed to be, right next to me. So that's why I'm left with this feeling of regret, an overwhelming feeling of being upset. Like 143,999 was taken, and I was the only one he left behind. And though I'm not Jesus Christ, I wept. And maybe my mind is playing tricks on me. Maybe my faith ain't what it's supposed to be. Maybe, just maybe, the trials and tribulations are too hard for me. Confused. Because of man's interpretation. The frustrations are getting to me. The temptations are too great for me, exhausting all the possibilities, so that's why I'm going to rewind back the hands of time. Just to see why I'm so jacked up potentially. And though the timeline may be incorrect, the pain of events are embedded in my mind like footprints in concrete that it's hard to forget. Or a liar who buries the truth in deceit. The truth is way too deep for a short shovel, but the one thing that can't change is the facts, even by the devil. So Lord, I want you to help me. Help me understand why. Prior to 1971, the year I was born, a bastard son, the word says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out the womb, I sanctified thee. That means spiritually you knew me. Stricken the gift of prophecy, why didn't you warn me? In 1974, a warm summer's day, a child began to run towards the traffic of Rogers Ave. Having 2 minutes head start, 50 feet away from the end of his life. It's evident from the beginning, inadvertently, suicidal tendencies haunting me. In 1978, introduced to Debbie Does Dallas. Not understanding this was man's version of sexual malice, so now I yearn. In 1980, the physical abuse became too heavy. The verbal abuse affected me. Mentally, the jealousy and the envy was planted in me way too deep. It's too late for me. In 1981, Mommy Dearest said, no more wire hangers, leather belts, and extension cords instead. Open hand slaps and punches to the back of the head. A spanking was a good day. An ass whipping, a piece of cake. But there was a time when I felt like Kuta Kente, as if I refused to say my name was Toby. I wish she didn't have so much to say because it seemed like every word she said was a lash being made. Why are you doing this? Why are you always acting up? Why do you act like your fucking father? Well, to answer your questions, Mommy, I just wanted your attention. I just wanted you to love me because you never mentioned. And if there was the only way I can get love was for you to beat me, as long as I had your attention, then so be it. 1982. Glowworms, Pound Puppy, Hot Wheels, G.I. Joe, you know, the games we played, the things we used to like to do. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. But God, why didn't you forbid when the babysitter chose to play adult games with me while I was still just a kid? In the flesh. 1978 portraits replayed before my eyes. WHT nightcaps build up with this unrelentless desire. This is for those who don't understand why I'm so touchy-feely. I must remind you, I'm at a midlife crisis. My life is not what it's supposed to be, but for some apparent reason, I feel during my crisis, not where he's supposed to be. Right next to me. In 1983, the innocence of child play, cunnilingus for the first time, chuckling, saying, dang, how nasty. But again, in 1978, replayed in my mind without rewind. In 1984, virginity lost, tainted from the lack of understanding. It painted a picture of what I love to hate. You already know. 1978, verbal abuse still follows. It was like me and my shadow. In 1985, reckless, hopelessly in lust with the physical aspect of love. Of love. Or what I thought was love. In 1986, verbal abuse at a new level. Now, I'm abusing myself. In 1987, I need love. So I searched in the wombs of many. In 1989, I planted a seed prematurely. In 1990, a baby at 17. In 1995, I was doing it and doing it well. But that was only sexual. In 1996, I met my future wife to be my ex. In 1997, verbal abuse still evident, but from a new source. Married to the enemy, but she was a good woman, but just not good for me. In '06, a band I barely knew dies and compels an epiphany. My mother says life is too short, then tells me in the same breath she loves me. Well, now, this brings me to today. 13,883 days from the day I was born. So my question, Lord, is why do you bring me to if you wasn't going to be there with me through? Too busy complaining, crying myself to sleep while outside was southern raining. And while I was asleep, he whispered, when you was at your weakest and you felt you couldn't make it through, just know I never left you. So then it hit me. So though I'm in a midlife crisis, and my life is not what it's supposed to be, but for some apparent reason, it feels like during my crisis, Christ is not where he's supposed to be, right next to me. Well, how could he be? How could he be when he was too busy carrying me? He was busy carrying me.